The Last Jedi was a lot of things, but above all, it felt like good old-fashioned Star Wars. I just saw Star Wars The Last Jedi. Yes, I know I'm probably the last Star Wars fan on Earth to have seen it by now, but who cares? Life's busy. Similar to most review people, I'm going to divide up this video into two halves. First half will be non-spoilers, second half will be spoilers. So you people who haven't seen it yet, which is probably like no one, you guys can watch the first half, then I'll give a warning like, hey, okay, now I'm going to talk about spoilers, and then just go away unless you want to have the whole movie spoiled for you. So first on non-spoilers, I'm just going to give positives and then I'll give negatives. The first major positive is that it feels like Star Wars. It just does. It feels like another story in this universe, and it feels like a great addition to the canon of this story. I don't know how to describe it, but overall, just in general, the movie feels good. Also, this movie has a lot of twists and turns. Basically, what this movie does over and over again is set something up in a way that you're like, oh, this is gonna be like Empire Strikes Back, or oh, this is gonna be like Return of the Jedi, where it sets up a plot point that you think is gonna be familiar and you think is gonna be the same as what was done in the original trilogy or in the prequels. But then it immediately subverts your expectations. It has good setups that feel familiar and then surprising payoffs. And I think that was something that was done definitely on purpose, which I think it's a good thing. I think the writer, Rian Johnson, wrote and directed this movie. I think he saw the complaints about the rehash of A New Hope that was The Force Awakens, which I still like The Force Awakens a lot. However, I do recognize that it feels very, very much like A New Hope. He saw those complaints. He was like, okay, well, they complained about doing this, so he would set it up like he was about to do that and then turn it and twist it. And I think that's a really good thing. And it keeps the story all very interesting. And I think it sets up really cool character moments throughout the movie as well. Another nice thing is that there's minimal plot holes in this movie. Everything is pretty well told and pretty well explained, and there's no parts where you're like, what? Like, throughout the movie, there are parts where you go, huh? And then usually about 5 or 10 minutes later, that thing is explained and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and it adds to the story. The Force Awakens, when I rewatched it again yesterday, I noticed more flaws in the story. This movie, when I watched it, I was kind of looking for more flaws in the story. Couldn't find them because they would have question moments and then explain the questions. Luke, Rey, and Kylo Ren all have great character arcs in this movie. To me, Luke's character arc is the best in the whole story. Those three characters all have complete, well-written, and engaging stories, and their character is not in the same place where they started. They change and grow throughout the story. Poe and Finn and Rose, this new character, they all had somewhat character arcs. Finn's was kind of more of a continuation of his arc from episode 7, and Poe's was kind of on the side. It was fine. Finally, the mythology of the dark side and the light side and the Force and all of those things are really explored pretty well in this movie. I think more than they have been in the previous Star Wars movies. It adds to the mystery around the Force, and it adds to the questions about the dark side and the light side. I think that's really good. So now for my negatives, my problems with the movie. You've probably heard the movie is very long. Its runtime itself, I don't necessarily have a problem with. However, the second act of the movie runs pretty long, especially the secondary plot thread. The secondary story thread is just not as good as the primary plot. To me, it just wasn't as engaging. It wasn't as exciting. It felt like filler, and it really could have been quickened up and sped. My other negative, it was probably more my fault than the movie's fault. It took me about a half hour to really get engaged in the movie. For me, whenever I'm watching like a movie that I've been super hyped up about and super excited for some reason, my natural instinct is to go into hypercritical mode and trying to find flaws in the movie. That mode that I was in kind of kept me from engaging in the story and kept me from enjoying it quite as much at the beginning. But slowly, the writing and the story just kind of took me in, and eventually I just relaxed and just enjoyed the whole rest of the movie. Finally, for my negatives, I felt as if the writing was a little bit too humorous. They tried to add a lot of humor to the movie, especially with Poe's character, and just some miniature jokes and humor added in. I can see why they want to do that, because other than the jokes, it was a pretty dark movie, and I know a lot of people like jokes in the midst of a dark movie. Normally I do. I just felt like this was maybe a little too much, It wasn't so bad that it took me out the movie. The jokes themselves were actually good jokes and they were funny. However, to me, it felt as if it was a little too much. That's more of a personal preference. I don't know about any other people, but that was just me. Overall, it was greatly enjoyable. I loved it. It just felt like good old-fashioned Star Wars, and it wasn't a retread like The Force Awakens. It felt very unique. It felt like its own thing, and I personally enjoyed it more than The Force Awakens. It's epic, it's awesome, it's different, and it's Star Wars. So for all you non-spoiler people, I definitely recommend you see it. Now I'm gonna go into spoilers. I'll give a countdown, so I'm gonna give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, what am I doing with my fingers? 2, 1. Okay, click off. I loved Yoda. Man, I was so excited. As soon as I saw the camera panning over and you see the back of Yoda's head, I was like, oh my gosh, Yoda. And oh my gosh, Yoda's scene was great. It was a great development in Luke's character. Yoda felt like the original trilogy Yoda, not like the serious, dark prequels Yoda. It felt like the Yoda that had been on Dagobah for a while and had gone crazy, but was still wise. I loved that they brought that character back as a Force ghost. They had to do it because Luke had been on that island. Obviously, he said that he cut himself off from the Force, but I have a feeling that he probably didn't do that right away, and he probably meditated and met with the Force ghosts of his old masters, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and he probably met with Anakin as well. I mean, his father. So I really loved that they incorporated the Force ghost aspect of having those old masters come in, just Yoda in this movie, but I'm really glad they did that because I would have been disappointed if they hadn't. And they did, and Yoda's moment was great, and I thought it was just a really, really good scene, and it was showing kind of moving on from the past. The Jedi should still survive. However, their ways and the strict codes and all those things like that didn't need to be extended. They were, page turners. They were not. He said, it was good. I really liked it. I also love how they tainted Luke's legacy a little bit. They made him not the pure, Jedi Knight that we thought he was. Obviously, Kylo Ren's perspective on it was a little flawed. He didn't see the inner battle inside Luke. Luke wasn't going to, he decided against killing him in a split second. Like he said, it was a fleeting moment and then it was gone. He was embarrassed that he had ever even thought of it. But obviously from Kylo's perspective, he didn't see that. He just saw the ignited lightsaber like he was going to kill him. It was, man, I really liked that they tainted Luke's legacy a little bit because realistically, no one's perfect. And throughout, Luke was a whiny brat in A New Hope, and he was a rash young teenager in Empire Strikes Back. But in The Return of the Jedi, he really felt like he was this perfect character. And I'm really glad that they didn't continue that and they showed that he was tainted. He wasn't who we thought he was necessarily, and I really liked it. I also loved kind of the light side fake out on Kylo where he kills his master, he kills Snoke, and then, you're thinking he's going to turn to the light side. No, he just killed Snoke so he could become Supreme Leader. He kind of goes even darker. I think that really subverted my expectations as well with, they're just doing Return of the Jedi. He's going to turn to the light side. Now it's going to happen. No, they're setting him up to be the main antagonist of Episode 9. I think that's really good. I think it's a bold move because you thought, Snoke was going to be the big baddie going into that. But man, I liked that move. It was a good kind of fake out twist. Now, some people did not like this, I heard, but I liked Luke's force projection twist. I think it was good. It made sense because Luke couldn't leave his island, right? His X-Wing was waterlogged for years and years and years. He didn't take the opportunity that Rey gave him to come back with her. He knew that this force projection thing would probably kill him. It was too much power. He made that sacrifice willingly, knowing that it would save the rebellion, save the hope of, Princess Leia and all those things. He could confront Kylo Ren. Personally, I enjoyed that creative choice, and it made a good twist because they were like, blow him up with all the blasters, and then he's still there. Like, how did that happen? Like, the Force? What? No. Like, I was super confused. I was like, that's dumb. But then it's like, it's a Force projection. Of course he can take all those because they're not even hitting him. I think Luke's death was fitting for his character arc. It felt complete. He was at peace. Yeah, I think it made sense. Finally, for positive spoilers, I loved how Rey's parents don't matter. They're trying to show that the Force and greatness can come out of nowhere. They don't have to be from the Skywalker legacy or the Solo legacy. They don't have to be from these families. The Force and greatness aren't familial things. They are just things. They can come from anywhere. and I really like that that's the message that they're going for, and I think that's a great thing for Star Wars, and I think that was a great thing for Rey's character as well, having this huge mystery about who her parents are and then just being, it doesn't matter. Because she's Rey, her parents don't matter. It makes her character even deeper. So I have one negative as far as spoiler things go. I don't like how we still know almost nothing about Snoke. I just don't like that. How did Kylo Ren meet Snoke? How did Snoke become so powerful with the Force? How is he so scarred and distorted? Where did he come from? Who is Snoke? We don't know anything about that. Hopefully they somehow explain that in episode 9 or something. He doesn't seem like a huge threatening bad guy if I don't know anything about him. That's just my opinion. I know there's lots of bad guys where you don't know anything about them, and that makes them even scarier. For Snoke and Star Wars, I feel like I need something. I need to know. But it's to me, that's a minor thing. I still loved this movie so much, and I thought it was better than The Force Awakens. I think it's one of the better Star Wars movies in general at all. One of the biggest things is that it feels unique, but it also feels like classic Star Wars. I can't wait for episode 9, and I think it's in good hands with J.J. Abrams, and man, Star Wars is back. If you enjoyed this video, I would encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, have a great week. See ya.